So in this morning's Celtic FC news, Chris Sutton says that Celtic got it wrong. What can he mean by Celtic getting it wrong? Another Celtic FC news, Jackie McNamara, Joe Miller and Tommy Johnson, you remember him? He's going to be in Newry this weekend with a statue for Willie Maley was his name. He went right, anyway, we'll talk about Alistair Johnson and we're going to talk about Rangers and the fact that they're saying they're going to sign 8 players this summer. We'll get the giggles out of the way first. We'll get this one out of the way first. Rangers are to complete 8 new signings. We're going to talk about football today, so just keep with it. It's not all going to be Celtic news. We're going to talk a little bit more about football in Scotland. Sam McManus has said that Rangers are going to sign 8 players, despite the fact that they've lost Ross Wilson, who jumped ship yesterday. Moving on to that, we'll go back to Alistair Johnson. Alistair Johnson, according to Steve Guppy, remember Steve Guppy? Sure, he wore this top, didn't he? Steve Guppy, he was honestly around in the Martin O'Neill era. He was a fantastic player for Celtic back then. He said that Alistair Johnson has become Canada's answer to David Beckham. Really? He probably could do. He says crossing the ball was something I don't think people work enough on. Little details make the difference. Many years ago I was at Wycombe Wanderers, he went on to say, and he obviously had Martin O'Neill, John Robertson and Steve Watford showing him and teaching him. He basically goes on to say about Johnson, he says that the training that he did in lockdown has made him the player that he is today. So that's obviously the lockdown in 2020. He says, don't get me wrong, David Beckham was a fabulous player, but David Beckham wasn't great at beating players either. If you give me time and a chance to cross a ball, he almost went into autopilot, and he's basically saying that that's what Alistair Johnson does. He says when you watch Alistair Johnson, he says he might not beat every player, he says, but give him 2 or 3 seconds and he'll be able to pass a player and he'll get that cross in straight away without even thinking about it. Now, in Newry this weekend, we'll get to the Chris Sutton story in a minute, so stick with it. In Newry this weekend, Jackie McNamara, Joe Miller, Tommy Johnson will be there on Saturday the 15th of April to unveil a statue commemorating Celtic's first manager, Willie Maley. Goes on to say, let's just jump down here, they've managed to raise €60,000 for the statue. It's long overdue as far as Celtic are concerned. Every manager who's put his life into the club now, he was one of the, well, he was basically the manager. He was the manager, if you want to say. Willie Maley was born in Newley Barracks, Lionel Square, on the 25th of April 1858, aged just 1, he and his family moved to Glasgow and his father took the honourable discharge from the army. In 1888, the 19-year-old signed from the newly formed Celtic Football Club. He was appointed manager in 1897 and went on to become one of the most successful managers in Scottish football history, leading Celtic FC to 30 trophies during a 43-year reign as manager. So it's a little nod to him this weekend, and they're also having a minute's silence for Frank McGarvey. And one of the speakers, where is our speakers? There's a few speakers there this weekend also. So yeah, it's about time that Willie Maley had his own statue for everything that he did for Celtic. And basically, if it wasn't for him, Celtic probably wouldn't be the team that they are today. It's all about the history, and if you know the history, we move on. And Chris Sutton says Celtic failed. Celtic failed. They failed in the way that they treated Timo Pukki. You remember Timo Pukki? He had a horror. It wasn't really a horror. We signed him for $3 million. He was played as a winger, and as you can see down in Norwich, he's had a fantastic career down there. It looks like he's been a prolific goal scorer at Brøndby and Norwich, and Chris Sutton argues the fact that Celtic failed to get the best out of Timo Pukki, using him in the wider role. What do you think about that? Can you remember Timo Pukki? He was here under Neil Lennon in 2014, it was, I'm sure, played with like Chris Commons and that. So, but he has been a prolific goal scorer. Chris Sutton went on to say, he said he's been phenomenal serving for Norwich, and the last 2 times that Norwich were in the Premier League, he came out top goal scorer. Pukki mustered just 9 goals in 37 games for Celtic. He says, but who did we buy him from? Was it a German team or something? I think it was a German team, wasn't it? It was basically, I mean, Putty's just been absolutely fantastic for Norwich. Did Celtic get it wrong with him? He's been up there claiming the Golden Boot Championship in 2019 while breaking 30 goals. There's been a couple of seasons that he scored 30 goals for Norwich. Did Celtic miss a trick with Timo Pukki? Do you agree with Chris Sutton on that one? Tell me in the comments. And if you haven't seen the comment section, if you go up to the community tab, I got used to caption a photograph. I'm going to do a video about that later on today, so make sure you go up and into that comment section and make sure that you leave a comment on it. Anyway, that's enough for the Celtic FC news today. Is there any other news around this morning? I don't really think so. It's a bit of a quiet morning. 3 key exits were part. Nah, there's not really anything out. McCarthy. Yeah, what about McCarthy? Really forgotten man. Anyway, on that note, have a great day, Celtic fans all around the world.
Lit. Roll up to the